Insightful podcasts by informative hosts. Insights into Things, a podcast network. Welcome to Insights into Entertainment, a podcast series taking a deeper look into entertainment and media. Your hosts, Joseph and Michelle Whalen, a husband and wife team of pop culture fanatics, are exploring all things from music and movies to television and fandom.
Welcome to Insights in Entertainment. This is episode 101, Cruising Back to Normal. I'm your host, Joseph Whalen, and my generous and giving co-host, Michelle Whalen.
Aww.
And why are you generous and giving today, sweetie?
I don't know.
Because you got up at 6 o'clock in the morning to take my car for inspection today.
I didn't get up at... Well, I did get up, but I didn't actually...
Right.
All right, we'll go 6:30. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because in order to get the tight window that you have with the MVC here in New Jersey to get your car inspected on the weekends, I would never wind up successfully getting it done because I wouldn't get up till 10 o'clock, and by the time I get there and sit in the line for 2 hours, they'd close. Right,
you'd be done. And what's funny is I had mentioned it to a friend of mine, and they were like, oh, was it a new car? I was like, no, we have to get it inspected. They're from Ohio. They don't do car inspection. So
wow.
It was just like, what do you do? So who would have thought something as mundane as, hey, we have to go get our car inspected?
Well, and you would think from Ohio, with all the weather that they get, that it would be even more important to get it inspected.
No, it seemed, and then they did a Google search, and it seemed there's only like 17 states or something in the United States that actually do car inspection. So there's your trivia for today.
There you go. Well, and the one thing we're fortunate for here in Jersey is that our car inspections are actually included in our registration fees, so it doesn't cost us anything. Right.
So you can actually go to free locations.
Right.
You can
go to private. You can take it to a local mechanic and pay a fee to do it.
But yeah, here we are fortunate.
Anyway, that's why you are generous and giving of your time for me today, so I appreciate it, dear.
No problem.
So that's not what we're talking about today, though.
No, it wasn't?
What we're talking about today is entertainment. In our Disney Detective, we're going to talk about Walt Disney Imagineering and ABC teaming up for a new interactive series, as well as some changes coming to Disney stores with their change in commerce policies, I guess we could say.
Yeah.
Then in our Tales from the Edge of the Galaxy, we'll talk about how Disney will make guests believe they're staying in a Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser, which is their new hotel that they'll be opening up next year after, something like that.
I think the end of the year, possibly. There's no date yet, so we'll,
right.
Yeah.
And then we'll talk about how Star Wars can finally have a Marvel-like shared universe, which I got news for folks. They had it before you had a Marvel Cinematic Universe if you talked about the expanded universe, but
blah, blah, blah.
We're not going to get into that.
Nope.
In our entertainment news, HBO is planning a documentary on Pee Wee Herman himself, actor Paul Reubens. Mm-hmm. And we'll talk about San Diego Comic-Con not quite coming into normal yet, but they're going to give us kind of a hybrid solution that will hopefully get us back into some sense of normalcy. And then we'll finish up with our insightful picks of the week. Are we ready to get started?
Sure, let's do it.
All right. Go for Disney Detective.
So, Walt Disney Imagineering and ABC are teaming up for a new interactive series called Imagine from Home. They're collaborating on this interactive video series, which is actually streaming online. And in each episode, Disney Imagineers will actually share their skills and passion by showing you step-by-step instructions to draw or craft something inspired by the Disney parks using materials that you probably have around your home. So the website for all of these episodes is actually imaginefromhome.com, and there are 5 episodes that they have. It doesn't look like they're going to produce any more, so it's probably, these are them. And for each episode, they list the level of difficulty from beginner to advanced, as well as the supplies that you're going to need for each project. So the different projects are draw your castle, then they have build your R2 droid, draw your Big Thunder Mountain, make your castle nightlight, and then the final one is make your small world animated scene. So it's cute. It's in the in the age of the DIY, and everybody trying to find crafts to do with kids or for themselves. This was a cute little series that Disney's doing, because they're all inspired by things from the different parks. So kind of cute.
Well, that is kind of cute. And it kind of goes along the lines of what Disney's been doing through this whole last year, where they're giving you recipes and
right,
insider little tours, and they're kind of keeping that interest going when you can't get back to the park.
Yeah, so it was cute. So for the drawing ones, it basically, you need paper, you need things to color. But then for the nightlight, you need a box, and you need some sort of light source, so like a battery operated Christmas lights or something. And then for the animated scene, you need like an X-Acto knife, and you need a glue gun. So some are a little bit more advanced than just paper and a pencil. So
that's cute. Well, and the other neat thing is, it's one of those things where it might be that spark to spark a kid to want to go down that path themselves and start doing their own stuff, and eventually become an Imagineer themselves.
Yeah, sure could.
Very cool. So let's talk about Disney stores and what's happening with them.
Yeah, so Disney had made an announcement the other week that they would be closing 20% of its brick-and-mortar Disney store locations before the end of the year as part of a bigger focus on the e-commerce business. So now, actually, if you go to the DisneyStore.com's website and you go to the store locator and you look for, they don't list the stores that are closing. You actually have to go and look for a certain location. It actually says that these locations would be closing on or before March 23rd. So a lot sooner than the one article that came out talked about. So at least 60 of the North American locations will close, the company had said, citing that changes in consumer behaviors and a desire to link its online shopping experience to its Disney Parks app and social media platforms. There are about 300 Disney stores worldwide. Stephanie Young, who is the president of Consumer Products, had said, while consumer behavior has shifted towards online shopping, the global pandemic has changed what consumers expect from a retailer. So obviously, everybody has seen this, across the board, that brick and mortar stores, unless it's a grocery store, they're really the only ones that are kind of thriving during all of this, because also they were the ones that weren't closing, that weren't closed for a while, where you had, a lot of other retail stores that were closed, and, some are finally starting to open or have been open, but, limited capacity and whatnot. So obviously Disney was feeling it as well. So that was kind of part of the reason behind it. So it's going to be closing, some of their stores. Now, so they had actually started putting, Disney had partnered with Target back in 2019, where they had miniature Disney stores located within certain Targets. So as of right now, those don't seem to be affected by it. The article also talked about the Disney outlet stores that are, open throughout, that those are not affected either. So it just happens to be the actual Disney stores. In our area, it looked like Freehold, which isn't that close to here, is one of the stores that will be closing. And that was like the original Disney store that was, close to where I grew up. So that was my original Disney store. So that's kind of, sad to see. And then in some areas where there might have only been, one Disney store in a certain state, now that state's not even going to have a Disney store. But the idea from what they were talking about is that they're going to revamp the website and actually do more, not just toys on the website, but do more adult clothing and collectibles and kind of what the Disney stores originally had back when they first opened. They had a much bigger variety of items that they offered, and then they kind of revamped it and it went more towards the kids aspect of things, so it was harder to get those collectible items unless you actually went down to Disney where they would have it there. So now it seems like they're going to try and bring back a lot of that. So
well, and this also comes on the heels of Disney having done a couple of year project of doing updates to their stores too.
Yeah.
They just not only did they update the Deptford store near us, they completely moved it into a new store area.
In a much larger location as well.
And
so
they had done the update to Cherry Hill as well to make it a much more interactive style store.
Right.
I'm curious if the stores that they're closing are ones they haven't actually gotten around to updating.
Yeah, I don't
yet.
know, because I can't remember the last time we were up in Freehold. But we've, in our travels, we've happened upon a lot more Disney outlet stores than there ever were, before. And, the last, the last two that we, went to, they had lines to get in. Now, granted, it was because of
restrictions on access.
But it was amazing, where there were other stores in the outlet mall that didn't have a line. Disney was one of the only ones. But even, the one that's down in Orlando, we haven't obviously been there in ages, but they actually started doing a line as well.
A little over a year. It's not ages. Well, it feels like ages because we were down there not this past Christmas.
It was 2019. That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
We went through 2020.
When you go to Disney 2 or 3 times a year, I could see going that long being ages. Yeah.
Well, it just seems like ages since we've actually been anywhere. Just,
Now, they did have a total number of stores that they're closing. Did they talk about how many jobs this is going to cost?
No, they didn't mention how many jobs would be affected by it.
Yeah, I'm curious what those numbers are.
Yeah, you figure each store maybe has 20.
Did they discuss at all what the financial impact was that caused the decision to close the stores?
No.
Yeah, Disney usually plays that pretty tight to the vest there.
Yeah.
So, unfortunate, especially some of the long-time ones that, like Freehold, that have been there for years.
Yeah.
So that was all we had for our Disney Detective. We'll be back after a quick break with our Tales from the Edge of the Galaxy. For over 7 years, the Second Sith Empire has been the premier community guild in the online game Star Wars: The Old Republic. With hundreds of friendly and helpful active members, a weekly schedule of nightly events, annual guild meet and greets, and an active community both on the web and on Discord. The Second Sith Empire is more than your typical gaming group. We're family. Join us on the Starforge server for nightly events such as operations, flashpoints, world boss hunts, Star Wars trivia, guild lottery, and much more. Visit us on the web today at www.thesecondsithempire.com.
Pew, 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 pew.
go for Tales from the Edge of the Galaxy.
So this article came from attractionsmagazine.com, and it basically is giving an overview of how Disney will make guests feel and believe that they are staying in a Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser. So they have a whole bunch of different aerial pictures, satellite pictures of the area, and they kind of, took the artist renderings that have come out and kind of overlap to try and figure out, how it's all going to work, and in some of the pictures, you can see that they've started to plant some trees in the tree line and stuff, and what's kind of important about that, and if you have been to Disney, you know that they use trees to hide things and camouflage things and hide things out of sight from the guest that goes there, to kind of help with the illusion of everything. So what they were talking about in the article is how it kind of looks like when you get to the hotel, it's going to be a one-way path that you have to follow with your car, and that basically you're going to get to a certain area and it's going to be valet parking. So you're going to hand over your car, they're going to unload your vehicle, and basically you have to kind of treat it as you're going on a cruise. If you go on a cruise, you never get you don't leave the cruise ship to go other places. You're on the ship. That's where you stay for however long the journey is. And this is going to be the same thing. So you're going to, check in, they're going to park your car, unload it, and then you don't see your car for the 2 days that you're there. So then they show the rest of the buildings, how then, you kind of go through the one area and they're going to transport you off-world. So then you're on, you're going to go through some sort of motion simulator to get to the Star Cruiser. And then they were also showing how they're starting to build the area that's in Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, of where you're going to, how you're going to get from the hotel to the park. So there'll be a special entrance just for the resort guests. So obviously the idea is that they'll have a bunch of different activities going on at the resort, like lightsaber battling. You'll be able to take tours of why can't I think of the word? I just totally blanked out. So they'll have the restaurant, they'll have a bar, they'll have character meet and greets. You'll be able to check out the bridge of the ship, and maybe depending on what time you're there might be a battle going on that you kind of help with, and then obviously also being able to go to the park. So no date as of right now when it's supposed to open. I think it's supposed to be sometime the end of this year, but again, nothing has come out. But the idea is, if this kind of takes off, could they do other themed, hotels, something like this?
Takes off. That's funny. I see where you went there.
I wasn't even trying. Thanks. So, obviously, we know that they already have themed rooms. They have the Pirates of the Caribbean room. They had always talked about doing a Haunted Mansion themed room, and that never came to be. But how cool would it be if they did a Haunted Mansion hotel, or even a Marvel themed, hotel, now that they're incorporating, Marvel into the parks. So cool little, hints and teasers, as it's getting, closer and closer. So
I have to say, in looking at some of the shots that we have, some of the overhead shots, this does not look particularly large. In fact, it looks very small compared to a typical Disney resort.
Well, and that's the thing, too, is most of the Disney resorts are multiple buildings.
That's my point,
Right.
is that this literally looks like one building. The shape and size looks like it's a single building from, like, Pop Century. Mm-hmm. And that's about the capacity. So it looks like from this shot that we're looking at here, it looks like it's, 3 floors, 4 floors maybe?
Yeah,
and I'm guessing
3.
those are the rooms in the back in the narrow area.
Mm-hmm.
The area in the front's going to be what your bridge is and your restaurant and everything else is going to be. So literally almost a third of the building that you have there is services. It's not even the rooms themselves.
Right. And from what, you've seen, the rooms aren't particularly large either.
Right.
It's supposed to give you that feel of being on a cruise.
Have they announced what the capacity of the resort is at this point?
No, I don't think so. I don't think there's been anything about it yet.
As you would expect, it looks like everything is an indoor attraction because there's no pool areas, there's nothing outside for anything.
Because the idea is you're supposed, and that's the other thing too, is I don't know if they're gonna have a pool because it's Florida. And usually when you go to Florida, you want to go swimming.
Right.
So I don't know. They haven't really given you much of, maybe in Star Wars you don't swim. I don't know.
Well, they swam on Camino, right? It was a water world, so you kind of have to swim.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So
I don't know.
So it's shaping up, not no pun intended, but it's shaping up to be a very different resort experience than what Disney typically offers.
Right, and I could totally see the person that would normally go for, a 5-day trip, 7-day trip. This would be part of their vacation, and then they'd stay.
Like we talked before, like it was the sea and land, the cruise and theme park attraction type thing.
Right. What we had said, how are they going to keep you from leaving?
Right.
It sounds like they...
Well, you can't get to your car now, so...
Right, you're not
going to... They valet park your car someplace that you can't get to it.
And, and I guess that's what they're trying to convey is...
Because if you look at the land, there's literally no parking area in the the immediate vicinity.
Yeah, so they're probably trying to, to convey to people that make this reservation... Think of it as you're going on a cruise, so don't plan to make dinner reservations someplace else. Everything will be, and I wonder if they're going to do that kind of like when you go on a cruise where, you do your rotation, certain
Well, how many restaurants are they doing? I know they're doing one, but it's not big enough to really do more than that.
I don't know. And that's the thing is, maybe it's kind of... where maybe there's multiple seatings, like there's a 5 o'clock, a 6 o'clock, and a 7 o'clock seating for dinner.
And it's just the one building that we see in the shot here, right? There isn't like 3 of these spread around the campus.
No, not that I know of. As far as I know, it's just the one.
Seems like very limited capacity. Did they release pricing yet?
Nope, nothing yet. I'm checking.
I know.
Just to see.
That will probably be our triumphant return to Disney is when that opens and we can do that.
Yeah, I could see that.
So, interesting. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about how Star Wars is giving us a Marvel-like shared universe.
So from denofthegeek.com, this article basically was talking about how Star Wars can kind of, finally have that Marvel-like shared universe, even though, you had said they've already kind of had that. But obviously, last December, Disney had announced that there were going to be 7 new Star Wars films and TV projects, and, giving us a look at, what the next few years were going to be looking like, not only for Disney Plus, but also in the theaters as well. So Rogue Squadron is going to be the movie that's going to be directed by Patty Jenkins, and that was kind of, the big event that had been announced. But obviously they have all these, small screen events as well. So we have the Lando Calrissian show that they've been talking about. as well as Ahsoka Tano, coming in. And, what this article was basically talking about is that now with bringing in all these different things, they're kind of doing what the MCU has done, is that even though you have all these different movies and all these different characters, there's little teases in one that help to lead you, to the other. And, so that now that, even though you had, the original trilogy and the prequels and the sequels, it was all still the same storyline. The Skywalker saga, where here that when you had the Mandalorian season 2, now you got to see some of these other characters that now they're gonna bring out into other things, as well as the little teaser that you had for the Book of Boba Fett. So now they're teasing a little bit of one to give you a taste of something coming forward. So the idea was kind of how, like with WandaVision, that's setting us up a little bit for Doctor Strange and Captain Marvel too. And that, yes, in the books and the expanded universe they did that for Star Wars, but the films didn't do that. So maybe that's what the article is really trying to...
the films didn't do it because the films were a serialized version of a single story.
Right.
So everything in the films were interrelated.
Right.
They didn't have, because you figure you had the offshoots. You had the droid animated series. Right. You had the Ewok...
series.
Village of the Damned Ewok or something. I forget what it was called. But
wow, really? I didn't think it was that scary.
Yeah, Village of the Damned Ewoks.
Damn Ewoks.
But they were all tied into the original.
Right.
So you had that before. So for them to pretend like they're doing something extraordinary here, Star Wars was the first real genre that gave you that interconnected universe. Every novel that came out was part of a bigger universe. The novels from the expanded universe explored all the stuff that Disney's pretending is new. They pitched The Mandalorian as, the universe isn't just about Skywalker. We're going to show you what the Fringe is doing and stuff like that. That's all stuff that was done in the novels and the comics to begin with. So for Disney to pretend that they're inventing that is ridiculous. For Disney to pretend that they're giving you this interconnected universe, it was already there, And I can't even give Lucas credit for it because it wasn't Lucas that did it.
Right,
Lucas basically just sat back and said, okay,
this is what I did.
Do whatever you want. Right. Just make sure I get my royalties. As long as he got his check, he basically let you do pretty much anything that kind of fit into the universe. The problem that you ran into with that was that you wound up getting some inconsistencies in canon that they always seem to struggle with. But what Disney gave us with the Marvel Cinematic Universe is built on what you got from the comics and the books from Star Wars, and it was built on what you got from the original comic series that Marvel did. Disney's not doing something unique and original here.
Right.
So let's make sure that we get that straight.
Right.
The fact that they're putting everyone and their brother apparently gets a TV show with Disney now.
Right.
If you happen to be in a movie. I mean, I'm waiting for, Scipio the Jedi droid that showed up in Mandalorian to get his own series now.
Now that would be funny.
That's the point that we're at now. Is
right,
that
and
they're
I know that's where
overbooking the genre.
Right, and I know that's always been your thing, is that there's going to be too much saturation of it, and that's where the problem always lied back in the day when they started doing too much. So is this going to be too much? And like you've said before, does everybody need a backstory? Do we need to know what happened?
Right. Exactly.
But obviously...
I didn't need to hear 50 times in one movie that Han Solo wanted to be a pilot. I didn't. I didn't need them to cram 20 years of Han Solo's life into a 3-day version of a story.
Mm-hmm.
They did a terrible job with it.
Right.
You know, they did a very good job with Rogue One.
Right.
But, like, you're batting 500 at this point here. You know, it's hit and miss. And unfortunately, with Star Wars, with my Star Wars and everyone else who's a Star Wars fan feels the same way, you need a better batting average than 50%.
Right.
You need to do a better job.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got, 4 new Star Wars shows that are coming out for no apparent reason whatsoever. You know, Cassian Andor is getting a show. We know how his story ends. We don't need to see the backstory of how he got to Rogue One.
I want to watch it.
Yeah, I understand. You know, Rogue One makes sense. It was a great novel series. I'd love to see them incorporate some of the personalities from the novels.
And that's what I wouldn't mind seeing, is something else like a Rogue One where it's, you know, a one-off where maybe there's one character that kind of, you know, like you had the Darth Vader scene and you had, you know, the end with, you know, Princess Leia, because it was setting up. So I could see them doing another,
but you see,
one-off.
Disney needs to do this because Disney painted themselves into a corner with the trilogy, the sequel trilogy, because they set it so far in advance. They changed the complete dynamic by throwing, because the time period from Return of the Jedi until Force Awakens had already been established in the expanded universe. So there was an expectation. Disney threw all of that out.
Right, they threw it out.
So all of the supporting history that you had in the novels and comics and video games up until that point became invalidated.
Right.
So now they stick a stake in the ground 35 years in the future that's completely different than anybody, although strikingly similar to what we had. We just changed, the names have been changed to protect the innocent.
Right.
And you have no history of how you get there.
Mm-hmm.
So you go from the Empire to the First Order, you go from the Rebellion to the Republic to the Resistance, but you have no explanation as to how you get there.
It happened that way.
So they painted themselves into the corner where they have to now do this.
Mm-hmm.
And they tried doing it initially through novels, where 3% roughly of the people who watch the movies read the novels. So nobody got the backstories.
Right.
So now you're going to come out with 12 different TV series
to help fill that gap.
That has to help fill it.
Right.
Because we've got a little bit of that from The Mandalorian, but literally
still
just
not
a morsel in the second season.
No, I get it.
So now you're 2 seasons in, you basically get a dribble of information to fill that in, and then you've got 4 more series. Well, they better start filling in these gaps and giving people some backstory instead of going off in a completely different direction.
Right.
So what they're doing is not unique, and they have to do it because of the way they decided to relaunch the franchise under their own terms. So it's their own fault that they have to do this. It's not some benefit to the fans. That's my Disney rant for today.
Are you done?
I'm done. And that is all we had for Tales for Bitching from the Dark Side here.
Hey, we have cookies.
Let's take a break. I'll bring my blood pressure back down a little bit, and then we'll talk about some entertainment news.
Insights into Teens, a podcast series exploring the issues and challenges of today's youth. Talking to real teens about real teen problems. Explore issues from braces to puberty, social anxiety to financial responsibility. Each week, we talk about the topics concerning today's youth. We look at how the issues affect teens, how to cope with these issues, and how parents, friends, and loved ones can help teens handle these challenges. Check out our video episodes on youtube.com/insightsintothings. Catch our audio versions on podcast.insightsintoteens.com or on the web at insightsintothings.com. Dum 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 dum.
Go for entertainment news.
So from Deadline.com, it seems that HBO is planning a documentary on actor Paul Reubens. So HBO is no stranger to shining a light on some of Hollywood's most fascinating people, and now it's setting its sights on spotlighting the person who created one of the most beloved characters. Sources tell Deadline that HBO Documentary Films is in production on a 2-part documentary about the life of Paul Reubens, who is the man behind Pee Wee Herman. He had actually said, "I've been working with HBO since they were called Home Box Office," Paul Reubens had said. He said, "I'm honored and excited to continue my long history there. I love HBO, but I'm not going to marry them." I thought that was funny. The producer had said that he was thrilled to partner with HBO on Paul's incredible life story. He's a once-in-a-generation talent whose brilliance created an indelible pop culture phenomenon. Audiences will be inspired and entertained by Paul's creativity, resilience, and determination as they get to know the person behind the iconic character. He had actually started as an improvisational comedian and stage actor in Los Angeles with the comedy troupe The Groundlings in the 1970s, and his big break came when he introduced the world to Pee Wee Herman in 1982 in a comedy show in Los Angeles. The show would end up selling out for 5 straight months, and then HBO decided to produce a special around one of the performances. And then over the next decade, Reubens would appear as the Herman character in 2 movies, which would be Pee-wee's Big Adventure, which was in 1985 and was directed by Tim Burton, and then Big Top Pee-wee in 1988. Reubens and the character hit their true peak when CBS actually gave them a Saturday morning kids show, Pee-wee's Playhouse. Now, what's kind of funny is if you ever watch the original HBO show of his show, it was not a kid's show at all. So it was kind of funny for fans that had seen his original show, and then all of a sudden he was able to turn it into the kids show. And that ran for 4 years on CBS. One of the other producers of the documentary had said, "We all know Pee Wee Herman, and it's time for the world to actually meet Paul Reubens." Sources say that the documentary is expected to focus not only on the Herman years, but also include Reubens' post-Pee Wee decades, where he put the bow tie away to focus on acting projects that included Ben Stiller's Mystery Men, Buffy the Vampire Slayer movie, and Blow, where he starred opposite Johnny Depp. Reubens did eventually bring back the Herman character in 2016 in the Netflix movie Pee-wee's Big Holiday, which had Reubens fan Judd Apatow producing. So given how private Reubens has been over the years, this will mark the first film that will actually document his life, and given his early ties that he has with HBO, it makes sense that they'd be the one to tell his story.
Very interesting. Now, is this going to be a standalone, or just going to be part of a documentary series that HBO is putting together?
It's just a 2-part series that they're doing, and HBO does these various documentary series. Some of them are a couple of episodes, some are just 1 episode, so this will actually be a 2-part one. So
were you a Pee-wee fan?
Oh, absolutely.
The movies, the TV show, or both?
All of it. You know, I probably saw the HBO special when I was probably too young to have seen the HBO special. That was the thing. My parents never really put those parental controls on the TV.
Nice.
So I became a fan. So, you know, watching it, I didn't get half of the jokes. You know, I was a little too young. So then when the movies came out, big fan of the movies. And then, you know, when the kids show came out, of course I was older, but, you know, it was just so cool. I had to watch it, you know, anyway. So, yeah, I was always a big fan. I don't think I ever saw the the Netflix special. I don't know if I did. I don't remember.
We'll have to look it up now.
Yeah. So I'll have to.
But he also recently was in Gotham, right?
Yeah, he was in Gotham. He played Penguin's father.
Right.
Yeah. So
which was a perfect fit for the Penguin character.
Yeah,
too.
absolutely. And he and the actor that played Penguin, he totally looks like they could be father and son.
Yeah.
But I remember when, I went to go see Buffy the Vampire Slayer movie in the theater, not knowing that he was in it, and he came on, you're like, I think that's Pee Wee Herman, So it was so it's always been nice to kind of see him pop up,
right.
In other things. So yeah, always have been a fan. So.
Cool. So let's talk about San Diego Comic-Con and how it's
let's book our
bring us back to
tickets to the living room.
Yeah.
So San Diego Comic-Con will hold 2 events this year, one virtual and one in person. So San Diego Comic-Con began in the 1970s as a comic book convention, but the event has exploded in recent years to become one of the most anticipated pop culture events of the year. It's definitely been on our bucket list for years now. So the convention typically draws 130,000 attendees to San Diego who are eager to find out the latest news about their favorite franchises. Last year, though, for the 50th anniversary, San Diego Comic-Con was held online due to the coronavirus pandemic. So San Diego Comic-Con was just one of the many festivals in 2020 that was hit with cancellation. The pandemic continues, obviously, to affect the entertainment industry as theaters remain mostly closed and film and television productions have to follow strict safety protocols to stay safe. So as vaccines are continuing to roll out across the country, many are trying to gauge when it'll be safe to do events like Comic-Con again. Unfortunately, this summer might be too soon. So San Diego had announced that the convention would go virtual again this year. The three-day event will be held online from July 23rd through the 25th. But to make up for this turn of events, though, they are putting on an in-person convention sometime in November when it may be safer to gather. They haven't really provided any details yet about the November event, but they say that information about the dates, badge prices, and other information will be announced as they know more.
So there is some hope out there for conventions this season. There was another convention that was recently rescheduled in our area, wasn't there?
ZoloCon.
Right.
ZoloCon normally happens in February, and they have it listed as July right now.
So, but that could bump.
That could bump. I could totally see them doing time tickets, and you have to buy your ticket in advance, not at the door,
right.
Type thing. Like some of these other events that they've been doing that have started to kind of pop up. So I could see them doing that. Again, with ZoloCon, it's a very cramped area. So unless you're limiting the amount of vendors to kind of space the vendors out.
Right, because they have multiple rooms that they do it.
Right,
there.
they have multiple rooms.
That's done at the Fuge.
Right. So you have the one, circular room where I guess maybe if you only did I think they always had two.
There's an outer ring,
and an inner
ring, and then a radial ring.
Right. So maybe do only, an
outer
and an inner.
Yeah.
And then for some of the other rooms that they kind of pack people in a little bit more, maybe do half capacity.
Yeah. You could certainly do it. You could do it safely. You could do it smartly. You and I, by that point, will have both of our vaccine shots, so we'll be fully vaccinated. But even if we go, we'll still be wearing masks and everything.
Absolutely. There's no, just because we're vaccinated doesn't mean we don't want to protect ourselves from possibly passing it on to somebody else, right. Or getting it. So yeah, I see us wearing masks for quite a while. But it'll be nice if some of these events kind of,
Yeah,
pop
and
up.
what San Diego Comic-Con's doing is actually kind of unique that they are splitting it into two events, and they're scheduling their live event further out.
Right.
I think it's one of those things that, people need a little bit of hope right now.
Right. You need to kind of, hey, if ZoloCon is up and running by then, or even, the other convention location in our area in Oaks.
Right.
That's
That's huge.
That's a
Yeah.
large area, and that even when we've gone to RetroCon.
Well, the one that we did do was the Lego one that was very well spaced out.
Right, the Lego one was very well spaced out. Even the what was it, the Greater Philadelphia Comic-Con,
yeah.
That was very well spaced out. So, in a lot of these cases, depending on the venue, they could definitely get away with doing, again, you have to buy your ticket online so that this way they can, manage how many people are coming, do time tickets, so that you don't have everybody coming in at once. And most of the Comic Cons, you have people that don't stay all day, anyway. So I think the ones that are the bigger draw, like the San Diego, like New York, New York, that's going to be a while until I think they're able to
New
do
York
that.
is too packed even
Because
under
it's-
ideal circumstances.
Right, exactly. So, some of the locations that, that we've gone to could totally be done, in this environment, in, maybe by the end of the year. So
Good news. We're moving in the
yeah.
right direction, and hopefully the light at the end of the tunnel is not too far off.
Yeah,
for us.
absolutely.
So we'll be back after a quick break, and we'll get into our insightful picks of the week. Go for your insightful pick.
So my insightful pick is on a 10-part series on Netflix called Ginny and Georgia. It's a dramedy, I guess is how they described it. So it follows free-spirited Georgia and her two kids, Ginny and Austin, how they move to the north in search of a fresh start, but find that the road to a new beginning can be bumpy. The story centers around Ginny, who is a 15-year-old high school student, and her mom, Georgia, who's 30, but yet Ginny is a little bit more mature than her mom. And it shows how they kind of are trying to plant their roots in a small New England town, and you find out that, Georgia's gone through a lot in her 30 years, and that, some of her past is kind of starting to catch up with her, and that, everything isn't as peachy as you would, think. It's not your typical teen drama. It's definitely, where the last time we did an insightful pick, that was much more of a teen, rom-com type thing, where this kind of has aspects of it, but it's darker as well. The other thing is they show and talk about how teens, sometimes do the self-harm. And they actually have at the end of some of the episodes, if you or someone needs to talk to somebody, please call this number. So that was kind of nice to see that they put that out there, and that it's not, all hunky-dory and life isn't all peachy keen. So you have these dark, things that kind of come in. So, not meant for kids, even though, again, the one character is based, in high school, but definitely along the lines of the Firefly Lane and Virgin River and that type of, entertainment. So if those are the types of shows that you like, this would be one that you'd be interested in.
Okay, good pick.
Thank you.
So my pick this week, I jumped on this one as quickly as I could before you could steal it from me. It's only got one episode out so far, and it's fresh off the presses as of Friday, and that's Marvel Studios Assembled on Disney+. Assembled is a comprehensive series of documentary-style specials streaming on Disney+ that chronicles the creation of Marvel Studios' thrilling new shows and theatrical releases. Journey behind the scenes of productions such as WandaVision, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and Loki via exclusive on-set footage. Join filmmakers and stars like Scarlett Johansson and Jeremy Renner as they detail the genesis of the Black Widow film and the Hawkeye series. Assembled is an immersive and in-depth examination of the next phase of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. One of the things that I do enjoy about the new shows that Disney is doing, both the Star Wars and the Marvel shows, is that when they shoot the shows and the documentaries at the same time.
Yes.
So you're getting the interviews, you're getting the behind-the-scenes stuff, so they already know they're making the documentary, so they're not going back and scrubbing through footage.
Right, or having to try and remember, what did I can't remember, that was so far ago.
Right.
Yeah.
So they're doing a very good job of producing the material for the documentary. And as soon as WandaVision finished, the documentary landed the following Friday, and it was a great look. You're watching them interviewed on the sets that you saw on TV in the shows, so it gives you a very in-the-moment sense of realism, in the documentary itself. Yeah. And you see the behind-the-scenes stuff. One of the things that we noticed on the WandaVision one was just how much wire work they were doing,
Yeah.
You would have thought, given the level of technology they have in post-production, that you wouldn't have your premier primetime actors dangling from an apparatus in the ceiling.
Right.
But they are. They're not stunt doubles. They're the actual actors, and it lends such a level of realism to the show.
Yeah.
And just hearing the personalities and the camaraderie on the set and everything, it makes you feel like you're part of the experience more than anything. So I'm very much looking forward to the additional episodes that they're going to have in this series. They didn't say how many episodes they're going to have total in the series, but I think that's going to depend entirely on how many more episodes, how many more shows they come out with.
Right, and obviously for them, they're not releasing an episode until the whole series has dropped, so that
which is good because there's so many spoilers that are in the documentary.
Yeah, so if you haven't watched WandaVision, don't watch this yet because it's going to ruin everything. But it was again, we know how much detail they put into all of their projects, but to see and hear how much detail went into just one episode of WandaVision, to the fact that the special effects artist happened to work, he interned on Bewitched, and
and they did practical effects. They were wire effects. They weren't computer generated.
Right, and that's what they did, was that for each decade of the show, they went with the whole mentality of, okay, we're filming this as if we were in the 50s, the 60s, the 70s.
They brought in the traditional lighting to get the correct lighting effects.
Right.
Even your studio audience is actually dressed in period clothes.
That, I thought, and that was something that you would have never known from watching the show.
Right. And even the audience, the chairs, the railings, everything was done to period standards.
Yeah. Who does that?
That level of detail is just insane.
Right. And for something that isn't going to show up in the show.
Right. And it's one episode.
And it was just one episode
that they did that for.
So very cool.
Very cool. Marvel Studios Assembled, streaming now on Disney+. So I think that's all we had this week.
I think so.
Before we go, I would invite folks to subscribe to the podcast. You can get video versions of the podcast if you subscribe to Insights into Things. That gets all of our shows on the network. For audio versions of this show, you can subscribe to Insights into Entertainment. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, Stitcher, pretty much any place you can get a podcast. We would also invite folks to reach out to us, give us your feedback. You can email us at comments@insightsintothings.com.
Oh,
That's
I'm
your
sorry.
cue.
You can find us on Twitter at insights_things.
We stream 6 days a week on Twitch at twitch.tv/insightsintothings.
You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/insightsintothingspodcast.
On Instagram, we are at Insights Into Things.
The audio versions of all of our podcasts are at podcast.insightsintoentertainment.com.
You can catch high-res versions of our videos on YouTube at youtube.com/insightsintothings.
And finally, if you don't remember any of our links and you just want to head to our main website, that would be www.insightsintothings.com.
That's it. Another one in the books.
Have a good week, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.